Yeah, I guess today we're just talking. What?
Yeah, it's beginning.
Okay. Today we are going to be speaking about the commemoration of the Rwandan genocide. We're going to speak about truth and reconciliation and just give our own, the panelists will give their own thoughts about the process of remembering and whether you feel like it is beneficial, especially for the younger generation, or whether it's more damaging than anything. But before we start, I'll let the panelists introduce themselves. My name is Sasa Kainde, and I'm part of the I'm part of the panel today. So we'll start with Mr. Justin Bahungar, just eldest first. If you could introduce yourself to us again.
And thank you very much indeed for giving me this opportunity. And to go before ladies, ladies first, is the African culture, or for that matter, or something
well,
else?
I thought since we're talking about African things, we'll do African culture today.
Okay, so my name is Justin Bahunga. I live in London, UK. Thank you.
Okay, and
I think I should
ladies
be next.
Sure, why not? Let's go. Yeah.
My name is Nelson Muhiro. I live in Western Australia.
Okay, welcome. And Camille.
Yeah, my name is Camille Ringinya. I live in Belgium, a little town called Vilvoorde.
Okay, welcome.
Near Brussels.
Thank you. Whenever I speak about this, to me, sometimes it sounds silly because I think I wasn't even born when all of this happened. I was 1 year old in 1994, but I still think I can add a little bit of my experience about how the memory of it impacts me and my family. So I thought we'd start with sort of giving a small background about the impact of the Rwandan genocide and the process of truth and reconciliation. To start, usually when people ask me, particularly when I'm arguing with people who are pro the regime, they used to always ask me, the first question is, do you believe in the Rwandan genocide against the Tutsis? And for the longest time, I didn't understand that that was both a political, factual question and a political question. I now have an answer where I tell them, no, I do not believe in that. I believe in the Rwandan genocide, which began in October 1990, when a wing of the Ugandan army crossed into Rwanda and began a 4-year length civil war that unfortunately we all know ended with the 100 days of genocide that prominently targeted members of the Tutsi ethnicity and moderate Hutu politicians on members of the Hutu elite. So for me, in regards to truth and reconciliation, I grew up in a pacifist community. So I didn't even know how to tell members of different ethnicities apart. We were very much taught through pacifism, we are one people, etc., etc. So it never felt like I had something hanging under me. But once I've entered the Rwandan realm of politics, it's a completely different thing. I realize it's not a small question. So if you don't mind, we will start again with Mr. Bahunga, giving us a little background of however you'd like on your thoughts about just the process of remembering, whether you think it has been beneficial or more traumatic to the Rwandan people.
Well, thank you very much indeed. When we come to definition of whether it is genocide or not, I take the judicial definition of the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, because one of the elements they used to say about the genocide is the planning. But the tribunal indicated that they had not seen anything about the planning of the genocide. And I heard also the RPF general prosecutor, who is Gahima Gerard, who said that up to the time that the plane of President Habyarimana was shot down, there is no indication to show that there was a planning of killing Tutsis. But that after that, there was a pattern that people were persecuted or killed because of being Tutsi. And for that, the judicial decision was that indeed the facts on the ground showed that there was indeed genocide against Tutsi. But to say what you're saying is that the Rwandan government, after the genocide, there was saying there has been genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. It's which was later, for political reasons, we will come to that later, that Rwanda was able to manipulate in the General Assembly to make it be called genocide against Tutsi. And to leave out the other. And that's why you find countries like the United States of America, the UK, and even Japan had to write explanatory notes to say that they still that actually it was Rwanda genocide, but included also other crimes like war crimes against humanity. And that's why there's a problem now between Rwanda and the United States of America when they send their message to say a genocide and other crimes. But they recognize that it's not only the Tutsis who are killed, but also that the Hutus were killed. And in fact, on the 7th of April, after the downing of the plane, the first people, the casualties were the Hutus, two politicians, but also killed by the RPF who came out of the CND and went to kill civilian people who are mainly government civil servants, including, by the way, the parents and the family of Nadine Kansinje. She survived because she was not at home. That's how she survived. But the whole rest of the family was completely obliterated because they lived near CND. And in that reason, that's why we are saying also, when you say that there was Tutsi genocide, as we can, at least in my party, FDN, we say that there has been also genocide against Hutu, because the actions on the ground do show there was targeting the Hutus as such. So we also say there's genocide. And also to say that saying there was a genocide against Tutsis does not rule out, or it is not an intention to say it is 1-1, if it's 1 minus 1 is 0. You say that justice must be served independent of the victim and independent of the perpetrator. That's where we stand. But now, when you come to commemoration, of course, when we're going to come to say the process, of course, is wrong because it's selective. The justice was selective, and the process is selective. And I believe that even the remembrance has done today is politically motivated rather than sympathy or empathy to the Tutsi who died. Perhaps I can stop at this juncture. We were here, my dear sister. Hi.
Thank you, Kami, please.
Okay. What can I say? I didn't hear your last.
The question was, what is your experience with the process of remembering, and talk about the propaganda that is very
it's the same
strong.
question. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. I think for myself, I think the way it's done, it's really to divide the people. The people, the Tutsis can remember, but the Hutus can't remember because they say the Hutus are the killer. It's like in Rwanda, they are the killer and the victims. There's no other part. When you are Hutu, you can be a victim. That is what is terrible among the Rwandans, because there can be any reconciliation when people who have lost their loved one, the Hutus, are treated like only killers when they are victims. So what I can say is it's difficult process for the Hutus who are in Rwanda, but also for those who are out of Rwanda, because even here, when the Hutus say they have lost people, they people that they don't believe them. It's like, no, you're lying. What you're saying is not true. And I think as Hutus, it's a big problem to be seen only like a killer, bourreau in French. I don't know how you can.
The killer, exactly. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, a killer. Yeah, and I think, and that is for also for the young generation, because when you talk with the young people, they are like frustrated by that statement. They say, why I know my parents didn't do anything. I know they are Hutus. I know I'm Hutu, but I don't understand why I can be treated like someone who lost people, like those who went to Zaire, and they've been fleeing the whole country, but they've been, yeah, they went the whole country, the whole Zaire, to arrive like in Congo Brazzaville, in Central Africa, in other countries. And those, when you are a kid and you went through all that, and then after you are treated like a killer, not a victim, it's really frustrating and hurting. So I think it's something that is touching every generation, all the
Absolutely.
generations of people who were in Rwanda, even those people like you, Sasa, who said you said you were like one year old, but yeah, as long as you are a Hutu, you can be a victim. So that is really
Stigma. I would call it the stigma.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is
And
traumatizing.
and a
I think that
dehumanization.
is,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that is really the hard part of being what we are. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Thank you so
yeah,
much, Kami.
Thank you so much,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Rami. It's
yeah,
absolute. I mean, I think you would thank you for giving that element of this making one the bad guys and the good guys. And this is again something that goes against the process, because you spoke of reconciliation. Reconciliation is not made in technical terms about reconciliation. There's the four elements that are normally pillars to any genuine reconciliation. One is justice. As I was saying, there was victor's justice in the case of Rwanda, whereas the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda was set to judge all people responsible for crimes, for genocide, or crimes against humanity, as a step to national reconciliation. And the same tribunal or UN Security Council says both sides of the conflict committed war crimes and crimes against humanity. But when it came to trying the perpetrators, only one side of the conflict was judged, it was justice. So unless there is justice, you cannot speak of reconciliation. It doesn't matter what you call it, when you call it genocide, or crimes against humanity, or war crime, justice is necessary. It doesn't matter how the outcome will be or the sentence will be, but there's some sense of justice must be there. And that didn't happen. And that's why now only one side is seen as perpetrator, then as a victim, and that's deliberate. Number two, there must be truth about what happened. Now, not only is it denied by many laws, that have prevented people from speaking about what happened. In the Rwandan law now, you are not allowed to question the way Rwanda defines genocide. Once you do try to debate about it, you are seen a revisionist, negationist, and so on. So truth can't be known. People have to say what happened to them. And all the documents available that there's not only one side which committed the crimes. And it's not to say, it's not equating genocide to another crime, but it's justice. So you can't have reconciliation without justice. Number three, taking historical responsibility of what has happened, of the wrong which has been done. We know people have killed from 1990 from the border to 1996, even to today. Unless we accept that this happened, and you're prevented from saying that, you cannot have reconciliation. Number four, it is changing the social and the political alliances or structures to ensure their inclusivity. But today, we know for sure that inclusivity is not there. You know, there was a study done by US College of Los Angeles, UCLA, University College of Los Angeles. They had this over 3 years, which looked at the link between ethnic exclusion and violence. From 1945 to 2005, over 155 countries, and it was done jointly with 100 experts from universities across the world. Their study concluded that Rwanda is one of the 3 most exclusionary countries in the world. That's Rwanda, Syria, and Sudan. You know, Syria has happened already, has been war. In Sudan, it has been split into 2. So Rwanda is that. So there cannot be reconciliation when there's such a discrimination. And you know, and the statistics do show that, I think citizens also from ethnocracy, no, from dictatorship, ethnocracy. So that, again, you cannot have a reconciliation. Putting that together, that you are not even allowed, someone's not allowed even to mourn their dead, is terrible. I didn't say it, but I know Carmen, I know her dad. I don't want to go into her personal story, but this is part of the story. So when you speak about the process, it is not, but again, when you come to that, it's not only, when I look at the bigger picture, is not, I don't even think that the present regime is interested in reconciliation. It is a divide and rule. Because when if you look at the survival of the genocide, I think they are being used. We won't be having so many survivors of genocide being killed or in exile. I was reading just now the letter from Diane Bigara, which is shown in 2019 to President Kagame, showing that a list of 40 survivors of genocide of high ranking, some soldiers who have been killed or have disappeared. And she was asking the question, if you are so, during the memorial, so if you care about the dead, what about the living? It's more about the living than the dead. So for me,
Dr. Bahunga, sorry to cut you off. One of the things that I notice is about those survivors who are persecuted, they're people who are trying to create some sort of reconciliation within Rwandan society. So you have like someone like Kizito, whose main drive was to try and create a humanizing empathy. But these seem to be the main people that the regime targets. And I think you are about to make your point. So
exactly, and actually, I'm going to go to the point. Perhaps I don't want to monopolize the conversation, but I would like to say that all these memorials or what the remembrance is a political rather than some empathy for those who have died. Because again, if you looked back, I think I was in a conversation in an interview with Dagijimana. He asked, give me two names of Tutsis who were killed or disappeared during Habyarimana's time. Tell me the 20 years that was in power. I want two names from 1973 to 1990 of Tutsis who were killed. But now we are having a list of 40 from the survival of the genocide, who is saying 40 people. And then they are proper. This Guigara, he made money, and some of them have made money under Habyarimana. They have been dispossessed, or they have died in suspicious circumstances. So then you have to go beyond actually the issue of empathy, the issue of a political tool to keep power. And this is how it is happening. That's my view. The whole strategy is how do we keep off the threat to our regime? But I think the people who are there now, what they want is just power and to maintain at any cost. Whether you are Hutu or Tutsi, if you are against the system, then you disappear or you die. And that's why I'm thinking that the whole process is government engineered. It not come from the survivor themselves. It's the government dictating. I can ask myself, did they ask the people who lost their loved one to be put in exhibition for tourists? Even if they were, I'm not part of them, because I know I've got relatives who died, who must be there, because they have. I mean, it is not only Tutsi who are in those memorials. It's written the Tutsi, and that's how cynical that can be. That's the cynicism. I think sometimes we don't see that cynicism of that. So the threat
is, yeah.
And so the threat, I think, the first threat I think actually is Hutu. They say to the power. And how do you make sure you submit them? One is actually saying that all of these guys are either genocidaires or have got the genocide ideology. And I was reading the book of Mahmoud Mamdani, who is Professor Mamdani, who is one of the very.
I think he's a historian or something.
He wrote a book called "When Victims Become Killers."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And actually, what they have done is to say, if a Hutu, if we didn't kill, you were a passive bystander. Therefore, you are also morally or legally, you are guilty.
Mm.
So that, and then for the victims, they will say that there are photo victims, and these victims are by the Interahamwe. But when some survivors, only two survivors. The others are not. They accept they are victims. So again, it's a strategy to make sure that these guys keep quiet. The other part is putting divisionism, the genocide ideology. All this is meant to make sure that you submit and feel guilty. So these memorials, I think, it is to instill this guilt among the Hutu community. Number two is constantly raise awareness about the threat of Hutu coming back to power. When they are saying, we stopped genocide, we are the only people who can stop any genocide again. So it's always telling them, if we are not there, you are dead. And so even the Tutsi who try to object, they are seen as a threat, and the bigger threat, because they are more credible. If they are more credible when they complain, then perhaps the Hutu have been said, but you are a killer. So those are more dangerous to the system probably than what I would say.
Because they're more needed sorry, I was going to say, because I think they're more needed for the narrative to survive than Hutus are needed, because Hutus are just needed to be there as a scare tactic, as a part of the narrative per se. Everyone, feel free to join in if you have any others things to add.
I want
Sorry
to finish
about that.
that. I mean, that's kind of politicizing that. So for the international, these new yearly annual events, and also it is for the international community to remind it about their guilty, the guilty conscience, which you looked on when we are trying to stop genocide. So you can't tell us anything. So if we have to remind every year the ceremonies, you are invited, the gated that actually it didn't do anything, and therefore let's allow the RPF to do whatever they want. And so they coming back to the whole politicizing this. That's why I say the cynicism is meeting the threats, political threats. The Hutu, that's the biggest threat for genocide. Anyone who said you have genocide ideology, and also controlling the history. We are the ones who can write history. So they have written the history, and they say if you control people's history, you control the people. So you control the history, and then also the minds, feeling that actually I'm guilty. Actually, to be surviving, I'm lucky. The Hutu saying I should have been killed, but I'm still alive. I'm still alive. And so for the international communities to say, but you guys, what are you saying? You are looking on people are being killed, and we are the one who stopped that. How can you tell us? And even then, if it comes in, you have not dealt for the last 30 years, avoid the permanent threat of FDLR. It also comes in. So that's the whole philosophy about all this, all these ceremonies. It is not, for me, empathy with the survivors. It's more about how do we maintain power and how do we convince, keep down the population, and how do we threaten to always the international community. I can stop there for the moment. I don't let come and speak. Sorry for taking so too long.
No. You really gave us sort of like a pathway to follow. I actually think I want to add a point. I've always found it almost traumatizing growing up Rwandan. And so the last point you say is really true. They've used this dark memory to not only traumatize a generation, but also to explain why they have to isolate and disfranchise the Hutus, because these, in a way, there's a context of these animals can't be trusted. Remember historically what they did. So we have to be in control in order to keep it safe. So I'm gonna bring in Nelson here. Thank you for your patience, Nelson. If you could add any thoughts you had to that, or how you also find this truth and reconciliation process. Is it there for you? Is it even, can we even call it that? Thank you.
Thank you, Sasha. I hope that you're listening to me.
Okay, yeah, you're good.
All right. I'm glad that you have raised this topic, and which is particularly sensitive during this time when we remember the 100 days of genocide. It is very difficult because when we want to see the background of this genocide, the truth is that the RPF regime, the Rwandan Patriotic Front, or the Rwandan Patriotic Army, turned the government actually today, are the ones who put, I think, fire or petrol into fire or something like that. They're the ones who cause instability in the country. And now they're the ones who are controlling the narrative. It's a project, to me, that should be clearly explain to all Rwandans, particularly young people like Sasha, who happen to find themselves growing after this event, not knowing exactly what preceded or how people were living together or what transpired in the country before 1994. Yeah, you stated it well at the beginning that actually this killings or genocide started in 1990, but who started it then? Was it President Abdelman's regime that was trying to defend the territory that had been attacked by Ugandan army because the RPF soldiers who invaded Rwanda were enrolled fully into Ugandan army as Ugandans. But I think they never believed that they were Ugandans. It was just a plan. And this brings into some elements that are not explained into this in this history of the Rwandan genocide, because as I was looking at UN website, how they explain the Rwandan genocide, and they explained like Rwandan conflict has been exacerbated by white colonialists who favored the minority Tutsi and Hutus became unhappy, and this is towards in 1900s, 19th century. But that is not true, even if it's coming from the UN. So the whole thing is completely falsified. It's a history that is not written with all truth. It's just a mix of lies and truth for political reasons. Because I believe that the UN had no interest into Tutsis being killed or Hutus being killed. But it's a political entity that is there. And as you know, it serves mostly the interests of the West, US, UK, France. Sometimes the Chinese will put a veto or Russians, but most of the time they don't really interested into this kind of power fighting or struggle into controlling the third world countries. Now, when it came to Rwanda now, after 1994, I will perhaps summarize what you've been saying, both the speakers, Kami and Justin Bahunga, which I'm really grateful for their input. Though everyone speaks from their own perspective, or Bahunga, I believe he's a politician. He will always perhaps speak as a politician. I don't know where Kami put herself into, whether she's just an ordinary Rwandan or aligned somewhere into politics. But myself, I've never been into politics. I've never belonged to any political party, but I've been very much interested into developments, just knowing what's going on around as a concerned citizen. Yeah. So now, with this kind of distortion of truth that we are living in, it's very hard to find a way to bring the truth, because I was reading recently, like I said in introduction, I'm in Australia. We had a remembrance for all victims. We remember all victims, be it Tutsi, Hutus, Twa, and foreign nationals who perished during that tragedy, whose lives were cut short. And that is it's a no-no to the government of Rwanda. They hate it. They don't want anyone telling the whole truth. They just want to manipulate and spoon mouth the whole world whatever they want them to know for political reasons. Now, when we remember everyone, we're not just doing this event to oppose or to contradict what the government does. It's a reality. Everyone knows Hutus died, Tutsis died, twice, but the war was not discriminating against anyone, including foreigners who were assassinated or killed or massacred as well. Yeah. Now, when we come to this remembrance, that's what I'm saying. It's very difficult. The truth has been distorted for over 3 decades now. The victor's story is a story that has to be written and has to be known and has to be taught everywhere. I was in one event in South Africa before I moved to Australia, where children from primary school and high school were presenting about different African countries. I think that was on Africa Day. And the kids were saying Rwanda is a country that was discovered in 1994. It was not existing before. And I believe that is aligned with the vision of the Rwandan government today, which is predominantly a Tutsi government. Because for them, Rwanda never existed before until they came to power. Yeah. So all these things are really, it's a big mess. I'm not sure how we're going to start to address it. But when dictatorships or criminal governments take over power, they do all they can to erase their misdeeds or their crimes. You can see what happened in Rwanda after 1994 when they took the RPF government took over. They started changing everything from the national flag, the national anthem, the names of different areas of the country. The whole map has been completely changed. And this is not just to make things better, like there was a mistake before. The reason is just to erase traces of killings that have been done, so that someone who will read after 30 years or go to Rwanda, you will never find a place that is called Gikongoro or Byumba or Ruhengeri. They put other names, and their plan is to find a way to remove all those elements, and which is a criminal in itself by the law. When you are falsifying history or you're removing in the crime scene, if you remove the elements that have been there before the crime, it's a criminal itself. But this is the one that we have. Yeah. So when we come to remembering now, Rwanda wants only people to remember Tutsis. They don't want anyone to remember anyone else. Perhaps this year, at the 30th anniversary or commemoration, they managed to go up to 19 Rwandans, Hutus, who were recognized as Hutus who died during the war, just 90. Before, they used to say Agathe Uwiringiyimana, the former prime minister. This time they have included the former minister of foreign affairs,
Ngurinzira
Boniface.
But these are all politicians, right? Were any of them civilians?
Yeah, just politicians, Dutch politicians. Nice. So the civilians are not included. And everyone has to believe that. But now, for us who have families from the Tutsis and from Hutus, what do we do? Are we included? Do we just close eyes? I've been told so many times never to mention families of members of my family killed by RPF. They said, no, you just say who were killed by Hutus militias, because that's what the government wants. I say, no, I have to tell the truth, the whole truth that's happened, because it's my life, it's my story. I'm the one who lived with the survivors. but they don't want that. So we ended up becoming enemies of state. We called the names, genocide deniers and all the stuff. But for the sake of the truth, I accepted to be persecuted again, a second time or a third time, whatever, because I'm not going to budge. Truth has to be told as it is, whether bitter or sweet, no matter who it benefits or it is against. The truth has to remain the truth. Yeah, so comparing the regimes or whatever happened before, commenting earlier on what Justin was saying, I'm not sure who the person was who was asking to be told which Hutu or Tutsi died during President Habyarimana's regime or whatever, but perhaps every person will know their own people if they are relatives. Yeah, but I know some areas like in Kibirira, Gisenyi prefecture, where there have been massacres just after the start of the war, and I believe that was not infiltration of Rwandan Patriotic Front. This was done by Rwandan soldiers or even some leaders. So people have been having injustice, yeah, because anyway, the government was a dictatorship, though considered by this UN or other like a better dictatorship than Idi Amin or other guys. But we haven't really heard any mass killings of that scale. But there have been some injustice and some misunderstanding and some people profiled or things like that. And giving it to my own story myself, when I finished school, my first job was, I found a job in what we used to be called Caisse d'Epargne. This is like the bank of workers, if I can say, because and people with small businesses, which was the very first institution, banking institution that created in Rwanda a long time. But after a few months, I got transferred. I got called to go to work with within the president's president office. What you call in French, cabinet du président. So people were shocked. They say, oh, "How can you be called to work there?" I said, "I just applied in the Department of Work, or the Department of Work, and they will send you wherever they want as government." So when I asked the Director General of Caisse d'Epargne to keep me, he said, "No, if the Rwandan government wants you, where you will have to go to work, I have no power to refuse." And it takes them a lot of time to scrutinize, to investigate, and knowing the character of the person who has to work in that office. So once you are there, it's up to you. And by the way, I went to the Department of Labor, which was called Fonction Publique, and or Minifop. The director was a Tutsi from Kibungo. I asked him, "Look, I have found a job in Caisse d'Epargne. Now I'm called on the radio to come to this office and be told where else I need to go to work." So, and I remember sending a letter saying, I've found a job, please can you cancel my application? So he told me, "Look, we don't have the powers to do that. So it's up to you. Maybe I can escalate this to the Director General, who was called Muhigana. I remember his name, an old man who has been a diplomat before. And I went to his office and he said, "Look, we don't have any powers to change whatever the department of whatever the president has decided. If they want you to go to work there, we don't have any say. It's up to you. If you want to go there and say, no, I don't want to work for government, go and say it." I could see that he was somehow like saying, "You're not intelligent enough. If you want to say no, then you can be in trouble." So I went there and started working. and everyone was being shocked. You look like a Tutsi. Why are you? Who gave you the job here? Then I asked my colleagues. I was probably the only the youngest person in the place. They said, "Who?" I asked them, "Why everyone is shocked? Tutsis are not allowed to work here. This is a country. Everyone is a citizen." Then, really, some people confided in me. They said, "Look, Tutsis can work anyway, but their character is very dangerous. If you bring one here, after a year or 2 years or 3 years, all the files will be out to the Tutsis in exile who have been planning to attack the country, or other vacancies will be filled by Tutsis. So this is how we live with them." I said, "Look, I'm not having any issues with that. I just come to work, but I want a peace. I just do my job. I don't want to be mixing those things." So now, going quickly, I have seen how people were unhappy, to see me. I ended up resigning in 1991 at the end, and proceeding in life, so that I find myself a bit safer, but not because of the government, of the office where I worked. They loved me. They were very good people, but especially soldiers who come to the office. I've met, I remember Buga when he came once after when the war started. They were always looking and say, "Who is this person here? Why is he doing here?" They were not happy to see me, really. So
Nelson,
this is a personal, I'm saying it as a personal experience, so that Justin Bahunga can get it. Maybe everyone has their own experience.
Yeah.
So now,
sorry, before I let in Mr. Bahunga, I was just going to mention how shocked I am. You're describing almost the same current social atmosphere that it is, but it's reversed. And I'm just surprised that there was no learning moment from maybe some members who survived from the Tutsis who experienced things like that. And there was no historical transfer of that to understand that if they replicated the same actions, it will also not end well. So before we go to Mr. Bahunga, I will let Nelson finish his word, and then we'll go to Mr. Justin Bahunga.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to perhaps conclude that saying truth has been distorted. Rwanda has never had any really credible reconciliation since the independence. And from this website, United Nations website I was reading a few minutes ago when we started, they were saying the Tutsis have been favored by colonialists in 1800s, when towards the end of 19th century, when Germans and Belgians came in. But this is not true. And it is found on the UN website. The truth is that Tutsis have been ruling, and they know it themselves, and they are proud of that for hundreds of years. They normally say about 4 centuries, with one clan, father to son, passing power like that. And that's where Tutsis became, the elite aristocracy became on top, as people who have cows and the rich, and the Hutus became subservients, or the vassals, small sort of slaves, and second-class citizens. That's how colonialists found the country. Yeah, poor Hutus serving the rich Tutsis. That's the history. I don't want to hide it. Whether my uncles or whatever were involved, I don't care. Truth is the truth. So now, this is where conflict started, hitting each other, just before, long time before colonial powers came in. But now, they say, no, this was done by the colonials. We were living a peaceful like that. We were okay. There was no problem. Seriously, there was no problem. How can people carry others in a bed when they're traveling? Why can they walk on their own? And this is a part of our history. And why, when you see in the Rwandan landscape, some of the good lands, places were owned by the Tutsis. And the Hutus, I come from the western side, in the mountains. So you will see Hutus going down in the mountain. The Tutsis are in an elevated place on top, in a place where they can keep their cattle, their cows grazing well. So that's how it is. Now, when there was this revolution in 1959 or 50s, Tutsis resisted the change. And they're the ones who started the war. They're the ones who started killing the Hutu leaders who wanted to change. And by the way, this is where MDR, I told you I don't belong to any parties, but I read a lot. I followed all speeches the politicians say. I want to analyze everything and understand. MDR said, Mouvement Démocratique Républicain, whatever, Parmi Hutu, or whatever. They say what I've found was Parti pour l'Émancipation de la masse Hutu, emancipation of the Hutus. Why do they need emancipation? Because they were second-class citizens. Who made them second-class citizens? Tutsi aristocracy. Not all Tutsis, because some were not in power. They had nothing to do with that. And when the colonial powers came in, they worked together with them. They maintained the situation. But now everything has been distorted, and they end up saying now only Tutsis died. We should never remember the Hutus or other people who were killed. And even if we remember the Tutsis alone, Tutsis killed by Rwandan Patriotic Front are not remembered. We know the massacre of priests in Igakurazo, that is June 1994. These people have never been buried in dignity, and they were Tutsis among the dead. So we have so many. We have Karasira Aimable. His family was killed, some by Hutus and others by Tutsis. But those who were killed by RPF, because he said it, he became the enemy of state. He's now in jail. We can go on and on. So there have been injustice. We're never waiting for anything good from the current Rwandan government. And it's not possible that they will bring about reconciliation because they're distorting the whole thing. And even putting the laws to punish people who tell the truth, they'll be called the negationists, they'll be called revisionists, they'll be called perpetrators of genocide, simply because they don't want to agree with the current monitor or whatever control the narrative. Yeah, I may end it there because this is a very complex thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nelson, for all those points. They were, you're right. It's always a very hard topic to speak, but very necessary. Before I give Mr. Bahunga a word, I just wanted to mention how it's sad, because I think there's that saying that if you don't learn from history, you're going to repeat it. And like Nelson, you just spoke about the history of serfdom. Essentially, we had aristocracy and peasants. And this is not a rare thing that happened in Rwanda. So many other communities around the world also had a hierarchy like that. The problem is that in Rwanda, we didn't learn from it. And I see modern Rwanda as sort of a neo-feudal Rwanda through neoliberalism, but they're creating those levels of Rwandans again, which is really dangerous. And they've created a new form of serfdom where majority of Rwandans have no right to land, no right to education, no right to very little. So Mr. Bahunga, please.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'd like to, first of all, if ever I made any insinuation that I said that the regime of German was perfect, I hope I didn't make that impression. And for me, one life lost is one too many. So whether the Hutu or Tutsi is not a matter. When I was saying that the more people died, Tutsi died under the RPF, is not comparing the numbers. They're saying, I'm just trying to say that the RPF cannot say it is there to save Tutsis. That's the point I wanted to make simply. Not to say Habyarimana was a very good man. I know he had imperfections, but definitely I can say it on my word that actually he's much better than Kagame. Number two, Kibirira, I know Kibirira, I think you might remember, I don't know, but when things happen in Kibirira, I know the sub-prefect, Bernard, one of the other name, some people were put in jail. What happened in Chibirida, and he died in prison, if I'm not mistaken. So action was taken in what happened in Chibirida. I don't know which incident, but I know for sure, because I know him, he was working in the president's office at one time. So it's not about, for me, not comparing the regime of Habyarimana and the regime of RPF. And number two, discrimination was there. But I also to point out that when RPF attacked, regionalism was more of a problem than ethnicity. And that is why when RPF attacked a Tutsi-led group, the people from the south, mainly from the south, because Karanya was from Hengeri and of course, but many people will tell you that the problem was more acute in terms of regionalism than ethnism. And when RPF attacked, my eldest daughter asked me, they said the Tutsis have attacked. What are we? What's our tribe? Ethnicity. So if you do know history, I think we can explain how the opposition was able to align itself with Tutsi attacking the country. I think it's a measure of showing how we had gone a bit further in bringing about harmony between the three. It was not perfect, but I think it was much better than before, and it was better than now. And we find when we are saying that actually Habyarimana is being accused of being more favorite to Tutsis than to Hutus. And when you look at how people from the South complained about the regime, was probably more critical than perhaps Tutsis would have been. I'm very happy to have another conversation to say about the relationship, how about the Hutu and Tutsi, and North and South, another issue. But for today, I thought I wanted to show that remembrance is being misguided and misdirected and cannot bring about national healing because of discrimination, because of selective justice, not telling the truth, and not distorting history. And then we come to say the history that the whites brought the problem. It is what I'm saying from the beginning is each regime tries to put a history that justifies what has power. And they say, who has power as history? So the narrative is there was a peaceful coexistence within the Tutsi until the white people came and distorted it, and they put the Hutus, the bad guys, and that the first and the second public job was nothing else. Mostly it was to prepare for another genocide. That's the narrative. And so, and from 1994, from 1960 to 1994, Rwanda did not exist. One started to exist after 1994. That's the narrative. That's what they teach the young people. And of course, as I said, they are imposing history, and who controls history controls the people. That's the point I want to make. And so when you come to the reconciliation, then we have to go to the basics. And which are the basics I said is justice, a truth, acknowledging wrongdoing, historical responsibility of what has gone wrong, and the three, to change the social and the political structure to make sure they are inclusive. We are not today. And the other point I want to make is we should go out of the box, and not only that, actually, that the Hutu are not remembered, but go further and say all these projects, which look seemingly favoring the Tutsi, is nothing else but a tactic to retain power by making Hutu afraid I mean, that actually that you are a killer, you speak all permanently guilty. For the Tutsi to say we can only survive if we are there to protect you, and anyone who disagrees is a traitor to the cause, and therefore has to be killed. I'll tell you in the letter of Diane, when he wrote to the president, open letter, he said well, there was a man, a young man, because I think the prison warden called him Miseneza, called him Nyamata. He was killed. And in her letter, he said, the chief superintendent, Innocent Yaturanga, he said the following, he quoted him, your security depends on you. You have to know who you are, how to behave, what you say, and where to say it. And this young man, he had wounds, scars of surviving the genocide, 1994. And his problem was that I think he had called Diane to say of mistreatment of prisoners in where he was warden. So who you are, meaning actually if you do or off, don't toe the line, you are dead. So have to think of this group of people who think actually they are profited with the system, that actually they have a problem. Don't think on ourselves, the Hutus, that actually this is happening.
They're prisoners of the system.
Exactly. And and then telling the international community, I was saying, you are looking on when people are being killed. And what comes another subject to say, and I can do that, was it who shot down the plane? Was it there was a trigger? Can be another conversation, but another time. But what I'm trying to say is, keeping to the issue of reconciliation, it cannot be there without the four elements. That's the point I wanted to make. Not to defend any system. Thank you. Or regime.
Thank you so much for that,
And
for that clarification. Sorry. So we're almost finishing up, but before, I'd like us to tackle just one last subject. In the last 2 days, I saw two different videos or two different topics being spoken by young Rwandans. One was in Rwanda, where different groups of young people are taking pictures of themselves at memorials, but they're taking selfies. They're taking pictures that are inappropriate, because for them, for me, it showed the distinction between those in Rwanda who are meant to be traumatized and controlled by the narrative, and those who know it is a narrative. And so they're comfortable taking pictures in front of it. And so there was quite a lot of discussion about it, about whether these girls need to be punished under the law, the different laws that Rwanda has for the genocide, because many people found it insulting. But then members of the regime were saying, no, these are young children. They don't need to always be sad in remembering. They can be happy and smiling while they're remembering their dead. And so there was that fight about how do we properly remember. And then another video I saw was in Toronto, and it was young Canadian children. They were having a memorial. And this reminded me about how me and my siblings were out of high school, maybe starting university, when we first learned that in our city, there is Ibuka memorials, excuse me. But we had never heard of them, but we grew up in this city. And so it got me thinking, what is the point of putting, let's say, 40 young Tutsis who are Canadians in a building to get them to remember the Rwandan genocide, when the Rwandan Hutu Canadians are not in the room? What is the purpose of a one-sided remembrance, particularly outside in the diaspora? So when Nelson mentioned that in Australia, they had inclusive memorial, I thought that was quite beautiful, because in Canada, we are still having Tutsi-only memorials, which makes no sense. you need the entire picture together in order to fully not just empathize with each other or feel with each other, but to put yourself in the other person's shoes and to understand we're all humans, but we're also all Rwandans. So if you could comment a little bit about this, it seems there's a divide within Rwanda about how the young want to remember it. I think for 30 years, they've been in a depression and they're tired. So they now are starting to break out of the regulations that are allowed versus the diaspora remembering. We'll start with Kami. I think you haven't said anything in a while, so we'll start with you and then Nelson, and we'll finish off with Mr. Bahunga.
Okay, so the question is about how
remembering with our Tutsi only or remembering with our Hutu only, especially in the diaspora. It makes no sense.
Yeah, it makes no sense, but until now there is that narrative that says that Hutus can remember, Hutus are the killers, Hutus are the bad people. So what we do here in Belgium is we do our own thing. We try to remember and we begin the remembrance on the 6th, because all began on the 6th. For me, and I think for a lot of people, it makes no sense to say that the remembrance has to begin on the 7th, while the plane was shut down on the 6th, and all began on that date. So it's kind of weird when we do it on the 6th, and people say, no, you don't have to remember on the 6th. Nothing happened on the 6th, but we here in Belgium, in Brussels, with a part of the community, we do it on the 6th. And yeah, I think what we have to do as a community is to try to embrace our history and do things our way, and not wait for the people to tell us what we have to do or what we don't have to do. Like remembering on the 6th, it's yeah, it's how can I say it? Yeah, we have
it's very important, because if you think about it, it's one of the biggest parts of the propaganda. It's just a date, but it's so powerful. So that's
powerful. It's like to forget all that happened before, and that all began on the 7th. And the way they do that, the narrative is like the Hutus came from nowhere and they began to kill Tutsis. That's the way they want to show it. That's why they say that the preparation of the genocide has begun since 1959, and that there was a process during all those years to eliminate the Tutsis. That one day they started and they said, we have to kill them because it's the day. And that is really helpful, because we know what happened before when the war began in 90. We know that people were killed during all those months before the 6th of April and the 7th, actually. And I think what we have to do is do the things on our own way, and to try to tell the truth, to tell what we know to the young people. And that is why I even invite people, eldest people who lived things, who saw things, who were in the public administration, who were who were elder than who were like more than 30 or something, to tell what they saw, what they lived when they were in Rwanda. Because like yesterday I heard a woman, it's a Tutsi survivor, saying that that the Tutsis were not allowed to go to studies in Rwanda since 69, that there were no Tutsi at school, there were no Tutsi there were no jobs for Tutsis. Like that kind of narrative that says that before 94, before the RPF saved the country, the Tutsi were like, I don't know, slaves. They were like slaves. They had there was nothing for them, and it's kind of wow when you hear that, and you know that in your at school you were with Tutsis every time, in primary school, in secondary school. I left Rwanda when I was in the fourth degree in secondary school, and there were always Tutsis, even a lot of Tutsis in our classes. So I don't understand when they try to say to make people believe that there were no Tutsis at school, there were no Tutsis in the administrative public administration. Yeah, like they were inexistent. It's that kind of lie. I think things happened in Rwanda. People were killed. They were really killed, and they were really killed because they were what they are, like Tutsis, even those were Hutus. And I think it's not. There's no. It's not necessary to add lies on what happened. Not only to tell the truth on what happened, it's enough. It's sufficient. And then to tell lies that.
But that's why they have to lie. That's why they have to lie, because the truth is too. It's enough.
But,
yeah.
I don't know.
I know what you mean.
The tragedy was such a tragedy that that what happened tells everything. It's not necessary to add things that never happened, that Tutsis were killed, since 1959, they were killed the whole time, and they were really like nothing in the country. Yeah, it's a nonsense, and it brings to the young generation. It brings that hatred. They don't have to. Yeah, they don't have to hate other people, because what they hear are really lies, only lies. And but if we continue like that, I don't know how. It's like what Nelson said. I don't know how we're gonna take that back. The history, the mentality, the way people used to live, more or less in harmony, because everything can be perfect. But we had a way, and with the time, I think it would have been better than what it was before. But with the genocide and with the lies that came after, I don't know how we're gonna get that back. And sometimes I'm desperate. I'm like, wow, we have a long way to go before that country become a real country with people, with people coming together, with a united population. So yeah,
trust. We don't trust each other. Trust. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Kami. I think I'd said Mr. Nelson would be next. Before I give you the floor, Nelson, you had mentioned something about having family in both wings. And it's very annoying when people try to get you to either stick to one narrative or say one thing. I grew up in a pacifist family. I think I keep saying that. And in my community, they didn't believe in war or any of that. So growing up, I always had a Tutsi next to our families. They were intermingled and everything. So this always used to confuse me. But I want you to, I guess, speak on that, about how we need to reach out again, especially those communities who had been doing it. We need to be the first to put our foot out there and say, no, we're all the same, we're all Rwandans, and we can recreate a society of trust and empathy and humanity again. So Nelson, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Sasha. I'm proud of you. I like the way you have interest in knowing what transpired in Rwandan history and putting your life at risk, because whoever wants to challenge the current narrative is targeted, because it had to be silenced. Yeah, now coming to this, I want to perhaps comment on what Kami said, the reason why this kind of commemorations, or no, you said it in the beginning in Canada when you heard about this. And Kami also mentioned something happening in Belgium, probably, where they have a lot of associations of victims of genocide and survivors, and yeah, leading these things. Now, this is divide and rule tactics that the government of Rwanda does. They are the ones who control Kwibuka, the remembrance. You always see President Kagame having the flame of remembrance, his wife, well dressed on a thing, because he needs to show his card to the whole world so that everyone may be silenced and just shut up. Don't ask me why I imprison people or people disappear. Look at these bonds. Look at this whatever happens here. So, and it's then there for emotional or whatever reasons, so that foreign dignitaries coming to the country will change their speeches or just forget whatever happened. You can see how the government of the West, US, France, and they go and they kneel down to President Kagame, especially during this commemoration, yeah, that is the way this government of Rwanda survives. It survives on lies, on manipulation, intimidation. Actually, I call it a terrorist government to me, because who takes power after killing people and maintains the power by killing people and silencing them? When you read the newspaper or testimonies of people who get disappeared, who get arrested by the police in Rwanda, they put them in bags. That's what happened to Paul Rusesabagina when he was kidnapped. He narrated his story. There are many others who rounded up and targeted and put in a bag, in a head, like these Al-Qaeda tactics. Seriously, a state police doing that to its citizens who are going to be questioned so that they don't know where they are being taken? It's ridiculous. But this is what we have. Now, they do that because they want to survive and stay in power. And they believe once it takes too long, because they always say a lie that has been said over and over, it may end up becoming trusted, believed as truth. And with the lie psychology, they also say when, I think they say some of Hitler's generals also use that. They were saying they will tell this lie over and over, enforce it in the media everywhere until everyone has to believe it. And when people who are digging the truth, like Sasha, like Kami, or Justin Bahunga, who would love to tell the real truth, come up and say, no, this is what happened. Those people are now the ones who get believed as liars. And that is exactly what's happening in a country. So those commemorations, they happen in order to divide the Rwandan community. I participated in many, and I ended up now I'm not allowed to attend anymore, because they select who attends. It has to be someone who is in favor with the regime, whether you are Tutsi or Hutu, they don't care. If you have not prescribed to what the RPF government wants, you don't get invited. Not all Tutsis get invited. No.
So there's no organic part of it? I thought it was like the community. It is that state controlled.
It's state controlled. They send the topic of every year, and they used to send the videos from Rwanda into exile. This is a video that you're gonna show during your commemoration. And please select a day you want, and this is supervised by the ambassador. This is what it is everywhere in Rwanda, in Rwandan communities, other side. So they don't want to invite the Hutus because during this event, they make a lot of lies. So they don't want any Hutu to say, no, you're lying. This is not true. So they want to just go ahead, blinding the host communities. We used to say white people can be lied to very easily because they are very emotional, but it's not true. They still see the truth. You cannot lie to someone who's intelligent, who can read. So this is what they do. It's just controlled by these people. And when it comes to the start of the genocide, which is clearly on the 6th of April, till 14th of July, when the RPF controlled the whole country, all the borders, 14th of July, that's when you have 100 days. But if you start from the 7th, you have 99 days. But everyone says the genocide happened in 100 days. It's from the 6th. And everyone knows about what the soldiers, Rwandan Patriotic Front, Tutsi soldiers who were in this parliament complex in Kigali, what they did on the same night, they came out and they started killing people around there. And that's when this politician, Landouar, got killed. And he got killed by these same guys, actually, because they have been trying to exacerbate the conflict so that the President Habyarimana's regime look very bad, and they're killing prominent politicians, targeting them so that the chaos can happen, and then they took over power. So this is all manipulations, and it's done just to sit the government forever. And look, it's really sad to see how President Kagame seeks for elections from the Hutus, who are the majority in the country, and he oppresses them. They are not allowed to say anything. No child who lost his or her parents in Byumba during the war can go to the national television and tell the story. Throughout the whole year, it's not allowed. You cannot even sing a song that is about reconciliation. That's what happened with Kizito. All his songs got removed, and these are Christian songs. Not even in the churches, people can play those songs because that will be against government. So everyone is scared. So we have a government that is a terrorist, that is ruling by fear, because dictators use fear. When you instill fear into your people, the people will serve you without thinking. And that is what I sometimes call the Stockholm syndrome, where when perpetrators, I mean the person who is persecuting people, these people end up finding that he's the one actually who loves them. That is where Rwandans are. So it's a very sad. These commemorations really never bring any healing, but it open up the wounds, because in reality, for me, this was the only year I felt okay. I never had flashbacks or feeling a headache and sleepless nights. For the last 29 years, it was every time. But this year, I feel like I healed. So maybe because I don't attend these things anymore, where they are making lies. Because you can really have a headache when you hear what happened and people using someone's problem for political gains. It's sad. So now they're opening up those wounds, and they don't want the wounds to heal. That's why they select Tutsi kids and tell them things so that they can hate their fellow. How do these kids go back to play in a game, in a sports, or whatever? after having taught these things in their groupings, like Farge in Rwanda, or these other things they do to divide. So this is their way. So they're not the ones who are going to bring peace. But look, for survivors of the genocide against Tutsis and Hutus and whoever got killed, believing in what the prescription of the government in this kind of remembrance, it's actually self-hate, because you're not healing. Who is going to have the sleepless night? Not Kagame. He will be watching his soccer in the UK. He doesn't care, and nothing happened to him. So that's how they do. So people, Rwandans, need to wake up, because once the government of RPF is gone, we're going to stay together. Look, I remember what Justin was saying about government. Habyarimana never intended to kill Tutsis. Now, even with my personal experience I've had in the office, when I went to Arusha to testify, I had to tell them where the office was and who was the next. It wasn't the same complex, but I never had any problem with his soldier, his guards, or his counselors or anyone. No, I just said during the war, when the war started, these high-rank soldiers used to come to the office, and yeah, they're the ones who really gave me like a threat, but they couldn't do anything anyway. It was not their office, but I felt very much uncomfortable. Yeah, so Habyarimana had his own ways as a good dictator, as he was termed in Africa, and he had his flaws, wrongs. But guess what? No one say what wrong Kagame does. I mean, from his supporters, no one say this is wrong. There's nothing that the government of Rwanda does wrong in their policies. They always say all good. I mean, the supporters, what you call it in Hore or those, I call them even his militias, because they're the ones who are allowed to hunt down everyone who disagrees with them. Like me, they don't care. They will still give you the poison. They will still point where you are, so that these soldiers can come, and maybe they're these guys. They're all over the world. They are having. I think I want to close with this. Government of Rwanda controls Rwandans in the country and outside the country. There's a department in a foreign affairs department. I mean, a directorate, whatever. Because there's a director general in charge of Rwandans in diaspora. I remember she was a lady before, and her office is to control Rwandans in all countries who are in diaspora. So how did they do that? They created what they call Rwandan community abroad. This is a new terminology, which started close to the time of COVID in 2000, 4 years ago. Before they used to call themselves diaspora, but everyone is diaspora, is a member of diaspora, whether you're a Hutu, a refugee, or whatever. So they find, oh, this is now mixing up. Like they don't want to mix the bonds of the survivors during the genocide, they want to separate everything. So now this Rwandan community abroad unit in Minafet is in charge of controlling, following on a daily basis the lives of Rwandans who are in diaspora. So now this group works with the embassy in every region. They have a committee, they register the organization, and then they work to plan the commemoration of genocide. They do, which is Kwibuka. They also do the victory, and I think was it the 14th of July or 19th of July? No, 14th of July, where RPF took over the power. They also have a celebration. They do as well all other community things like Muganura. They perform and invite dignitaries and dance and do things. So this is what they do, and it's not inclusive. It's separating. So we will not have any government that will help survivors all ethnics combined to heal in Rwanda today, unless the regime changes. Some people, I follow recently things that they will say, this is the new thing trending, how you call it, Ineza Yabose, good for all, which is talking about the amnesty and whatever, advocating so that things can change and they can brush out or clear crimes committed by RPF and then start a new Rwanda. So I disagree with those things because the truth has to be told. Rwanda has commission, how you call this, the Conciliation Commission, but they removed the truth. In South Africa, it's called the TRC, Truth and Reconciliation Commission, but in Rwanda, it's called Reconciliation Commission. That means reconciliation without truth.
In Canada, it's also Truth and Reconciliation. It's Truth and Reconciliation worldwide.
They deliberately removed that because with the moment you bring the truth, the government will fall. So I encourage you guys who are standing up, join the movement, whether you go into politics or in civil society, but let the truth be told and never allow anyone to silence you, because if you accept it, then that creates further conflict and mistrust among our communities, among our children, and we never have one. I'm trying to find a way to overcome this. Yeah. That's only when good Rwandans, Hutu, Tutsis, Tuas, all work together and fight injustice that is being committed today, because that's the present challenge we have, and work together towards a bright future and never fear. Thank you.
Thank you. I so very much agree with all that. And the more of us there is, the louder our voices and the stronger we're all together. Mr. Justin Bahunga, you have the last word to close us out on your thoughts about our topic today. Oh, I just wanted to also mention, I love how you keep bringing back the importance of historical relevance or historical memory. I feel like there is a tendency to try and erase the history of 59 and independence. I think we need to come back again and just tackle that and how it has impacted all of Rwandan currently. But the floor is yours.
I think I'll start with that. That point. I will start with the point we just made. I think it is very important, and I'm a part of an organization of called FDU. And if whether they or not, I think one of the key things will be the clarification of our history, or to have a consensus history. Because each one has been writing, according as I was saying, to justify why they came to power and how they maintain power. When, for instance, I was saying, not repeat again, how they describe how things were good. Then 1959 it was destroyed by the Belgians, and then two government that were preparing for genocide. And then you have got today, the 1994, there is one that starts again. They have gone to the history, and then they are contributing the writing of history by saying, if you write it differently, then you are this or the other. So I think we need to agree. We need to be, to have an independent people at the end of the day who can write our history. And we think if there is a change, one of the things you have to do is writing a consensus history. I just want to comment that we're saying, I agree with it entirely. When it comes to, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, we hear you.
Hear you.
Okay,
we can hear you.
So when it comes to the dates about the commemoration, for me, I think it's a semanticism, unnecessary. And I fear, and that makes fear, that we fall the same problem or the same cynicism like Kagame and his group, who politicize a national tragedy. Genocide against Tutsi, crimes against humanity, and genocide against the Hutu, these are national tragedies. It should not be used as a card for political gains. And I repeat again, when we say there was Hutu genocide, not to deny that there was genocide against Tutsi, it's just saying justice must be done irrespective of the victim or perpetrator. That's as simple as that. And so saying that we should not even mention that there could have been genocide against Hutu is discrimination, is racial discrimination. Pure and simple. That this is ours, nobody should claim that. And of course, the other system I was talking about is using it to oppress, to kill, imprison, make people disappear. And that's our points. That's how they politicize our national tragedy. And let not anyone appropriate this national tragedy for personal, for political ends like other people is doing. So we have to mourn every life. Every life is important. As I said, any life, any Rwandan life lost is one life too many. None should be going. So fighting over who, how many, how is irrelevant. Or which date? From the key point is we have to remember and honor the dead. Whatever, when the Hutu or Tutsi or Rutwa, we'll forget about them. That is important. We have to do that. Secondly, I think it is very important to internalize the fact or the belief that the reconciliation is necessary for the survival of Rwanda. Rwanda can disappear. Congo has just lost, they say, 12 million. In 1994, we were about 7 million. So the Congo, 7.9 million. So, and now we are 13 million. Meaning, if we do in the comparative terms, like 12 million of Congolese, and that would have gone. We could easily get finished, and we not actually nobody will care. So our survival depends on internally the fact that we need each other, and for personal survival, for the survival of us all, we have to do that, and for that reason, if there is a group like the regime which is on now, try to use a tragedy for political gain, is leading us exactly to the situation, to the worst situation than before. I told you when we were starting, the study was done by University College of Los Angeles, that Rwanda, of the 155 countries surveyed, Rwanda, Sudan, and Syria were the most exclusionary in terms of ethnicity. And we are saying such countries 3 times more likely to go into civil war than in countries where they are inclusive. So therefore, it's in our interest of our survival as a nation to reconcile and to remove anyone or the group that acts contrary to a country's survival, as the other people are doing now. So the change is good for everyone. Now, Hutu, Tutsi, also for survival, this group has to give way to people who are national, who have got nation at heart, not just in politicking. And I have shown how this group is using the genocide to suppress not only the Hutus, but also to pursue and kill and imprison even survivors of genocide. Remember Mushahidi, Aimable Karasira, Kizito, who died because he was saying, whatever instrument we use to kill you, you have to be, whether it is a grenade, whether it is a gun, you have to be remembered. And that is my hero. I believe that. And then I think it was again coming about it was very concerned about the trust, and I think you are the same. Unfortunately, the first thing that happened in the dictatorship is to kill the social capital. These networks, social networks, that reinforce are a glue to society to survive. Today, told a wife can betray the husband, a husband can betray the wife, a child can betray the parents, because they feel that they come together, they can easily plan. I'm not even the military. If you want to visit somebody, you have to inform. So they don't want people to come together to form and they discuss and they complain. Remember, they say that in Ghana, so in Ghana, you can't complain. So unfortunately, this has. But I think what's the hope you have, Kami, is, I think it is Luther King who said that this generation will repent, not because of the few wicked, but because of the silence of the good majority. That's what is happening now.
That's true.
So that's what, and so we have to do that. And unfortunately, the most vocal, the most threatening are the ones actually who take over, and then others just keep quiet. So I have that feel. And the other one is, I think all this about the political elite fighting for power. The ordinary Rwandan wants peace, to be able to farm his or her farm well, to go to school and succeed. But the whole point is about the political elites fighting for power. And we have also to be careful, even when you're in the opposition as we are, that people who have power too much, when they go there, they might do the same. They might not kill like his group, because they have got more threats, but they can use other manipulation to remain in power. We have got President Museveni has been here for the 36 years. But he's there. So we have, and I remember, when he was swearing in on the 29th of January 1986, when he took power, he said the biggest problem of African leaders is never want to leave power.
Yeah.
And he's there 36 years later. So, this we are doing, we must make sure that we make the right choices. We make we put institutions, with strong institutions. What I have seen, like in the case here, the Prime Minister who was actually moved because he told lies. In Africa, I think being a lie is not a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to put the institutions that can control people. I think a man like Trump would be in power if it was in Africa. He would still be in power. And he's getting into court. He's into court for stealing, for whatever. So I think those are the key things that we have to build on. And I'm happy that I'm part of a group, or part of a group, a political group, a political organization that actually feels that institutions have to be built to ensure that they control the people who last for power, who don't want to leave power. So I think probably I had better stop here. As a conclusion, I said, this is about the cynicism of the present government. Say every life matters. Every life matters. One life lost, one life too many. Whatever who told Tutsi is the matter. Two, again, repeat, we must be aware and internalize the fact that reconciliation is a cornerstone for the survival of our nation. And so whatever we do, trying to put things right, it is our own interest. I'm not working for anyone else. It's for us to survive our children. Our children is it is in the interest of our whole community. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bahunga. I learned so much from you each time we talk. And I always end these conversations by reminding young English speakers, especially who are in the diaspora, this will affect us. I know sometimes it feels like we are very far away from this, but we are a diaspora. We have connections that do impact our lives. So anytime you do listen to these, please share them widely and come join us, because there's a lot you might be able to add to what we said that maybe we don't have a viewpoint that you may know. But again, what I want is to create some sort of Rwandan community where everyone feels welcome, yeah, we can create something that helps other people back home as well. Before we sign off, if anyone else has a final word they wanted to say, they can. But otherwise, thank you again very much for being with me. My name is Sasha Kainde, and we have these talks on radio, TV, and Pinduka. I cannot speak Kinyarwanda, so don't laugh at my pronunciation, but I very much enjoy your time, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sasa. Just the last word is yeah, to thank you for being so implicated in the Rwandan history. At your age, it's really amazing to see that you're so interested in, and I can see that there is more and more young people who are really interested in their history, and they want to know what happened to their country, what happened to their parents, why they are here, why they cannot return. And yeah, it's really great to see the young people so implicated. Thank you.
Yeah, if I'm allowed, I can also have my final words.
Go ahead, please.
To say thank you, and I'm glad to have met Runyinya, Kami. I think maybe we know each other on social media, just like that, but the first time to be together. And just Hunga, I know him, I follow a lot of their activities in the FDU. Yeah, like all other political formations, I really like to know what Rwandans are doing, and yeah, and I'm proud of things that are positive, things that are really good, which I'm passionate about social justice. So anything that goes that line, I will be there to intervene. And for the audience, if there's any word that maybe we have said that is not in line with what you knew before, or what you would love to hear and we didn't say it, or maybe you feel like a bit hurt somehow, because truth hurts, we are sorry for that. And perhaps next time come and raise your voice, rather than complaining, oh, this person says so, this one is negating that. Come and say it openly. And finally, Sasha, if there's I feel like saying Sasha, not Sasa.
It's both. It's whatever. I actually say Sasha, but a lot of yeah.
Next time, if you can organize probably a platform where more young people or challenging ideas can come from, I'm really interested in seeing these manipulated Rwandan youth in diaspora or at home together and challenging each other and discussing, because like I was saying in a comment, this will be the future of tomorrow of Rwanda. Those are the ones tomorrow's leaders. So they should take in their hands what we have now and understand the dynamics, and so that they be able to lead. Otherwise, we will be led by criminals like we have today in power, and there will be no justice for anyone if the criminal is on power. Thank you so much, and have a good night wherever you are. For me, it's almost going to be morning now. Yeah, yeah. I'll go back and have finish my sleep.
Thank you so much for making time for us. Mr. Bahunga, if you can close us off.
Yeah.